Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of The Antidote. So this week I was joined by Mac Reddin, who's the CEO of Comsor. So Comsor is a go-to-network software platform. It's really designed for companies to be able to generate pipeline using community network referrals, as opposed to some of the traditional, let's say, outbound methods we've been using. Mac and I really dived into what is go-to-network, how it can be useful for go-to-market teams in this day and age. We went really deep into this viral campaign that they'd recently launched, which just absolutely blew my mind. It was one of the reasons I actually asked Mac to join me on The Antidote. So we unpacked that a bit more, what went well, what didn't go well. We really discuss what it's like to be a founder of a VC-backed company and the difference there between that and being a bootstrap CEO, and also a couple of things that you guys can take away so that you can break through the noise, perhaps using gut feel and initiatives and brand marketing instead of using data-driven approach. So this one was super, super excited. I really enjoyed this one. Looking forward to you guys hearing more. So Mac, welcome to The Antidote. How are you doing, man? And what's been keeping you busy?
I'm good. I would say my answer to how I'm doing is I'm busy. So that's a very fitting question. So many things. I think the big thing right now is the best way I can sum up the last 2 weeks for me is that a few days ago, somebody filled in a question on our live support chat saying that our demo request form was broken. And I spent like an hour being like, how is it broken? Digging into it. Oh, it wasn't broken. It's just all the available times for the next 3 weeks were taken.
Okay.
Which is, I guess, broken. So like a great problem to have. We did our big public reveal like 2.5 weeks ago. So there's been a lot more interest than we thought. So a lot of what's keeping me busy right now is calls. And I'm the idiot who moved to Europe. So I'm doing a lot of calls and demo calls and onboarding calls at like 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m., 11 p.m., proper founder life stuff.
Well, that takes me back to about 5 or 6 years ago when I was doing the same. So I was in London selling into the US. I know exactly how you feel, by the way. You don't look tired somehow. You look pretty fresh.
No. Luckily, my superpower, I don't know if that's one of the questions for later. My superpower is I genuinely only need 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night. Not from like a hustle culture way. Like I've been that way since I was 10 years old. That's just no alarm clock. That's just how I am.
Lucky you, man. I need at least 7 or 8 hours sleep. So I'm on the other side.
It's a good founder superpower to have. An extra 2 or 3 hours a day is literally a superpower.
That's huge, man. Well, it sounds like your body's literally built for it. So let's go into it. I asked the same question to everyone. Everyone's got like a big challenge they're trying to solve. And we call this the poison, right? And what we're trying to give listeners is an antidote. What's the big challenge you're on a mission to solve?
The entire way companies sell,
Okay.
basically. I guess the cold, outbound driven way that people sell is the best way to put it. There's a lot more nuance to it, but that's the high level version. So
why for you do you think it's such a big challenge or a problem?
It doesn't work. So I guess the simpler, both as someone who has been in the buying seat for quite a few years at this point, the disconnect between the way buyers like to buy and want to buy and the way selling systems are set up, I think it's always been at odds, but the last 15 years have been the easy times. So you can kind of brute force your way through things. And it's become very apparent in the last 2 or 3 years that the easy times are over and we're back to fundamentals and you can't brute force your way through things. And that divide between the way buyers buy and the way sellers sell has never been more apparent. It's like, I saw an article recently, I can't remember the exact number, so don't quote me on this, but it was something like buyers get 10 times the amount of outbound touch points as they did 5 years ago. And that's expected to double again in the next year or two. And AI and automation are only going to make that worse. So it's just, everything is noisy and annoying. And I can't think of a time that I have bought a thing off of a cold outreach in the last 2 years at all.
Okay, so mate, well look, we are literally trying to solve not the exact same problem, but at Reach Desk we saw the same. It's busy, it's so much digital noise, we're inundated by it. How are you thinking about solving this then?
Yeah, so it's, I guess to give you a little bit of background, so Comsor started 4 years ago, but we sort of pivoted last year. We started we were building community-led growth. So originally we were hyper focused on this idea that companies should build and foster communities as part of their go-to-market initiatives, and that community can tie into that, build relationships. It can be a top of funnel, a middle of funnel, a bottom of funnel, a post-sale benefit. It touches the whole spectrum. I have a lot of background in building communities, so that's where that sort of naturally came from. And I'll spare the very long story on why we pivoted and the nuance. But what we call it now is go to network. And in some ways, I think labels like that are really important. But in other ways, what you call it doesn't really matter. And especially in B2B, we're all obsessed with like X-led this or new terms or new thought leadership things. So call it people first marketing, call it nearbound, call it go to network. They're all sort of rooted in similar thinking. There's differences, but for our perspective, it's that direct go-to-market doesn't work anymore, right? And I mean, there are times and places it works. And I know the LinkedIn influencer who's going to read this and be like, cold calls work for me. And they're going to like yell at me in the comments like, yes, congrats, it works for you. But if you look at like industry as a whole, it doesn't work the way it used to. So companies have to build, in our thesis, an inner network of champions, partners, creators, influencers, fans, advisors, ambassadors, investors, et cetera, that they can get to market through. You need this sort of network of people that can basically be like your Sherpas into the market versus the direct go up to a door, knock on it, and hope someone buys.
Okay, nice. Now, I'm going to ask you about the pivot because I personally find that interesting. So where was Comsor, I know, 2 years ago, and what really triggered that pivot to happen?
Yeah, so we are kind of the poster child for the 2020, 2021 psychotic fundraising, where we fought tooth and nail to raise a pre-seed round, and then literally a seed round, an A round, another A round, and a B round got shoved down our throats, for lack of a more elegant way of putting it. And it's an interesting to say, but raising that much money did almost kill us. Like it's a lot of founders right now are wishing they could raise a little bridge round and whatnot, but raising too much that's a different rabbit can be too much too. So the expectations on us were extremely high. And then a year and a half ago, the market corrected, changed, everything, got a little less easy and whatnot. And our customer base became the first group that were laid off. Community managers were laid off left, right, and center. The big wake up moment for me was we had a customer paying us a not insignificant amount of money. And I woke up one day, all 12 of their community team had been laid off. I remember calling the CMO and being like, hey, like who owns this now? And they're like, call me in 6 months. I was like, well, our contract renews in 4. They're like, yeah, well, call me in 6 months. Like, all right, that's not a great sign. So we really had this introspection moment of, okay, obviously, the hype around community is not quite what it was when we started. Times are a little tough. Do we just hunker down and survive through it, which we had the funds to do? Or is there a deeper problem here? So we spent quite a few months doing this deeper introspection of, is there something bigger or better we could do? So it wasn't at the moment, at the time, a pivot for survival as much as it was, there was an opportunity to slow down and look inward. And in that process of looking inward, we realized there was a better way to go after the same problem space we had started with.
Nice. So we're very similar bucket, raised a lot of money back in 2021. I feel the pressure still, but you have to figure out a way through it. I'm seeing what you're talking about, go to network, similar other acronyms or ways of describing it happen. But for those listening and watching, like, can you break it down in terms of like the fundamentals and how people can actually employ this as a strategy for their own companies?
Yeah, I could fill the rest of this conversation with just that if you let me, but I think it has to start with a mindset shift. It's not as someone who's trying to sell you a tool on it, it doesn't start with tooling. It starts with a mindset shift. And I think the big mindset shift is, I heard this the other week, the idea of commission breath. Like a buyer can sense when a seller's just there to close a deal. And somewhere along the lines, I think because things were so easy, it feels like a large part of the tech sales world lost sight of the fact that as a salesperson, your job is to help a buyer save money, make money, save time, have a better life. And that's how you close a deal. Your job is not to close a deal as much as that is actually what your goal is on paper. You don't get there by focusing on that. And so there's this mindset shift that's needed around building a relationship with people and actually coming at it with this authentic approach versus just this like sell at all costs mentality, which is what we were all doing for 10 years up until 2 years ago. A lot of sales teams I think, struggle with that point, because a lot of sellers right now and a lot of sales leaders, they've never been sellers or sales leaders in a time where things weren't easy, right? They started 10 to 15 years ago. They came up when, money was cheap, money was free, selling was easy. People were buying tools they weren't even using. And now you have to really focus on actually selling and not just picking up the phone or sending an email and just like plugging some numbers in. The hard part about go-to-network is it doesn't really fit into the predictable revenue model, right? It's not a system where it's like, oh, I can do X amount of activities, which leads to X amount of meetings, which leads to X amount of booked meetings. Therefore, I need to do X amount to get to Y amount. Easy done. It's unpredictable. It's very human. And when I say you have to go at it with this intent of building relationships, that doesn't mean go make friends with your prospects, but it means be a real. I mean, if that happens, great. We all need more friends. Like, there's also a loneliness epidemic. That's a separate problem, but it just means be a real person, build an authentic relationship. I love the stat, right? Only 5% of B2B buyers are in market any given time. So yeah, if someone's in market right now, if someone's in the 5%, yeah, sell to them right now, right? If you send me an inbound request saying you want to buy our product right now, yeah, I'm going to try to sell you the product right now. But if you're in that 95%, it's about building those connections through community, through content, through events, through personal branding, through social selling. It's about putting the person first instead of the brand first. It's about like inverting the way companies have been building.
Oh, so mate.
It starts with that.
I love that so much. And I literally used that 5% stat yesterday in a team meeting. I was like, let's not try and boil the ocean. Let's just go after this very specific type of customer. But what I've learned is a lot of it's about signals. It's about capturing those signals at the right time. Nice. So if anyone watching or listening is on LinkedIn, they will have seen what you guys have been doing over the past couple of weeks. And this blew my mind. And I do want to go into this. I remember going to LinkedIn and all of a sudden, half of my network seemed to have dinosaurs next to their names. And I was thinking, what is going on here? Like, is this some publicity stunt? It kind of turned out it was. And when I looked into it, it was something that you guys had orchestrated. So can you tell me a bit more about what that was all about? I mean, I obviously know, but I don't want to reveal the secret.
Yeah.
How did you orchestrate it? And like that can't have been easy to pull off.
Depending on your perspective, it was probably both easier than you think and harder than you think. So in the moment, it was easier than you think. But it took 6 months of work for that moment to be possible. And I think that's the thing that a lot of people, like some people were like, oh my God, they must have spent a fortune paying these people to promote them. We didn't spend a cent. Like that's the most important. We didn't spend any money on that day. Not a single cent. Besides like our team's time and effort, which obviously costs money, but that's a little different, right? People have done this before. People have paid influencers to do posts and do LinkedIn takeovers. But paying influencers is like a moment in time. It's like they pay the post, a week later, the post is gone. Nobody remembers, nobody cares. So it's the result of the fact that our team has been focused on building relationships and connections and actually getting to know our target buyers. So even 6 months ago, when we weren't ready to be selling our product yet, we were going out there and connecting and learning and researching and helping people. And we were helping people get jobs and connecting dots and we were just like contributing to the sales community on LinkedIn, essentially. So when it came time for us to launch, our whole thing is we are the house of authentic connections. That's sort of our brand tagline. That if you want to, that's kind of like the result of a go-to-network strategy is you create a house of authentic connections. So we built all these relationships and we thought, well, why don't we just ask these people if they want to be a part of it? And that's the other thing is people don't realize people like being a part of things. And if you actually have built an authentic relationship with people, all you have to do is ask. And my favorite part about this is there were some really big names in our network that I actually didn't ask because I thought, oh, this person's famous. They charge money for posts. They're never going to say yes. And actually they DM me the day of and were like, why didn't you ask me? I would have loved to be part of this. And I was like, oh, I kind of assumed like you charge $10,000 to do something like this. Like I assumed you wouldn't do it for free. So there's no harm in asking if you actually have given people a reason to care and be a part of something. I think that's the thing we've done is our brand, it has in a way transcended the product. Like people talk about ComSor and our herd and the dyno like they're part of a club or a community. Some of them aren't even our customers. Like we had people who are not customers who were hopping on calls with people on our launch day. Someone would ask a question in a LinkedIn comment and someone would chime in and say, "Oh, I'll hop on a call and explain what ComStore does." They didn't work for us. Weren't a customer of ours. They were not paid or incentivized to do it. So it's one of those things that once again, it's really hard to track the amount of work that went into making that day possible. But the day of and the week leading up to it was basically just asking people if they wanted to help. It wasn't much more complicated. I mean, there was a lot more work to it, but it really boiled down to that.
That's amazing. And look, you said at the beginning of this episode, the thing that's been keeping you busy is just being back-to-back demos.
That's a result of that day.
That is a result of that day. And so, look, for those that I think probably need to clarify, here's what I saw. Right? I saw everyone talking about ComStore. I saw dinosaurs. I saw hashtag join the herd or something along those lines. I think I saw someone in a video with a giant, like, inflatable dinosaur outfit as well, right? And so there was all this noise about dinosaurs, which led everyone back to ComStore. And then it was a product launch that essentially went viral, and it didn't cost you any money. And that is what has built your pipeline effectively.
Yeah, and then it's like just the ongoing results of it. And so my favorite analogy of direct go-to-market versus go-to-network. Direct go-to-market stops working if you stop shoveling money into it. And if you've built, and I'm not saying it doesn't work, right? If you've built a system where you can put $1 in and get $2 out, by all means, keep putting $1 in to get $2 out. But if we're really honest with ourselves, most go-to-market systems are more like put $1 in, get 75 cents out. Maybe $1, maybe $1.25. They're not $1.02. Like if you stop paying your SDRs to make cold calls and send emails, what happens next quarter? You book no meetings. If you stop paying for LinkedIn ads, what happens next quarter? You get no clicks to your site, no meetings. But if you focus on building an authentic community and content and relationships, it pays off and it compounds over time. And it's like traditional go-to-market is basically based on a binary system, right? Closed won or closed lost. Either I'm to Alex is going to buy, great, or not. Marked in the CRM as closed lost. But if you build a network, these compounding effects, maybe you will never buy from me. Maybe the timing will never be right. The budget won't ever be there. But maybe at your next job, you'll buy from us because you like us and you've got the brand affinity and you've gotten to know us. Or maybe you'll refer someone to us. Like I can't tell you how many of our leads are referrals from people that are they're either fans of ours, but they're not the right company right now to buy from us, or they don't have the budget right now, or they're just not the right person to buy. But they like what we're doing. They stand behind what we're doing. They want to be a part of it. So they still send other people to us. So like there's this multimodal outcomes that are possible when you build this compounding network versus just a system where you're shoveling money in. And if you stop shoveling money in, it just stops. It just ceases to exist.
Nice. Yeah. It's so spot on. Going back to the launch though, I can't imagine it was all like plain sailing. There must have been some struggles along the way. Can you reveal much of the struggle? A
lot of it was probably just our team overthinking and stressing out leading up to the day. Team Idea, we've been planning to launch for a while, and we just kind of decided a week and a half before launch day, we said, screw it. We're launching next Thursday. It's like, we just got to rip the Band-Aid off. We just got to do it, right? Like, it is like your product's never, as a founder, your product's never good enough. It's never what you think. Mm-hmm. Like at a certain point, you just got to do it. We had a lot of feedback on that day saying like, our product messaging still isn't great. Some people still didn't know what we did. We're never going to learn those things unless we put it out there. So that was really the only like downside day of. The week and a half leading up to it was chaotic. The team trying to like coordinate it and get the videos ready and, overthinking it probably ourselves of like panicking about, do we have everything? Is it going to go well? And I was doing a lot of tempering the team's expectations. And, launches are really just moments in time. Launches are not getting to the top of the mountain. Launches are getting to base camp. And now you have the right to start climbing the mountain. I think a lot of people think launches are these like magic silver bullets. Like, we've launched. Why is nobody buying from us? And it's, it takes time. It's just a starting line. So I think because we tempered our expectations so much internally, we were really blown away. We had our little like war room the day of with a bunch of our team on Zoom, all sitting there for hours, being like, oh, another post came in, make sure we respond to it. Like there was a lot of like triaging just to make sure we were engaging on social. And a lot of people were responding about how amazed they were, how responsive our team was that day and how quick we were on top of things. But it was hard. There was 4 of us sitting in a Zoom basically all day, just dealing with what was going on LinkedIn as a result of what we'd started.
Very cool. I'm sure it was a lot of fun, but also probably increased the heart rate a little bit.
In a good way.
Nice.
Though,
well,
for sure.
In a good way. Yeah. In a good way. Well, congrats on that, man. I think you've blown a lot of people's minds. You certainly blew mine when witnessing it. So,
just wait until you see what we're doing next.
Oh God, there's already the teaser. There we
Oh
go.
yeah, we're not done. We're just getting started.
Oh mate, I'll happily be part of the next one if you want me to join the herd. All
See,
right, look.
there you
So
go. It works.
it works. It does. It does. It's genius. Okay, so look, you're the CEO of a startup. Certainly, everyone in my network is talking about. What's the journey been like to get here?
A very, very long. It's the classic, right? It's the classic overnight success, a decade in the making, as they say. But like I said, when we're 4 years old as a company, we've already had one moment where everyone thought we were a hot startup because we raised so much money, so we got all the traditional press and all that, and then it was like, oops, like maybe we raised a little too much, and it was a little preemptive, and times are good, and then times we corrected, so we had to go back to being like not the hot startup, and now it's like, oh, we're back. It definitely feels a lot better being the hot startup because people and our target buyers are talking about us versus like the traditional, like we raised money, so press are talking about us. Like 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, it was like, oh, we had the news article and it was like, ooh, here's a photo of Mac because they raised so much money and ooh, Mac's in Forbes 30 under 30. And like in the moment, you're like, yeah, I guess this is cool. It doesn't mean anything, that sort of stuff. Like it seems cool in the moment, but it doesn't actually matter, honestly. So it's been a long journey. And the big thing I'm constantly amazed by. So I've been a founder for almost 13 years now. I've pretty much never had a normal job besides like, working at a clothing store when I was younger. That's not like a career job though. And I've been a bootstrapper. This is my first time being VC backed. One thing I'm constantly amazed by is how often things I've done at past companies, even if they're completely irrelevant to what I'm building now, how often a little learning or a little moment comes back. So it really is like, it feels like an overnight success, a decade in the making for me. Like there's so many things that have gone into making what I'm doing right now possible. It's, it's not a straight line. It's, do you know the book, The Messy Middle by Scott Belsky? Like just that image on the front where it's like a line and it's like, la, 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 back, front, up, down. And then like a line up the other side. Like that's the journey in a nutshell. That is the best way to describe it.
That it feels like every day for me still. And
Yeah.
we've been at this is our 6th year at Reach. So still fairly young, but
Yeah.
it feels like that all the time.
Yeah.
There's
And you have
I don't
days.
know anyone that's just kind of gone straight line,
Oh no.
straight to the top.
It might look like that from the outside. It's always messier on the inside, right? It's always crazier. I feel like I have days where I wake up and I start the day, I'm like, I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm on top of the world. Everything's going great. By lunchtime, it's like, oh my God, this is terrible. I have no idea what I'm doing. And then by dinner time, it's like, everything's great again. And like that might happen 7 times in one day.
You are describing every day of my week still. But that's I love it. I love the thrill.
Yeah. It's
It's
the
not
best.
easy. It's not easy though. Like I think that we have
Yeah.
to acknowledge that. What's the hardest part you've been through?
Trying to think of, so many things. I think moving to Denmark in the middle of also like starting to reinvent our business, I kind of underestimated how much an international move would like take a toll on me mentally, physically, the amount of work to do and deal with it. And it was like also trying to get a company through growth pains. That was a very long summer. The first summer I was here, I didn't really feel like I had moved. It was this weird like limbo state. Adding personal stress on top of founder stress is always a recipe for chaos in a lot of ways. I think reinventing ourselves. Like if we'd had this interview 9 months ago, 12 months ago, when we were like at the starting line of reinventing the business, when you have those unknowns where it's like you've built this thing, you've gotten the praise, you've raised the money, you've been told you're doing a great thing, and you're deciding to throw away what you've spent 3 years of your life working on and essentially restart, but you don't know exactly what you're restarting with yet. That unknown makes the work a lot harder. Like when you wake up every day and you don't know exactly what you're going to get done that day. Now it's like, I'm actually probably working more and working harder than I was 9 months ago, but I wake up every day and I have like a pretty good idea of what I need to do that day and where I'm trying to go this week. And it makes the work a lot easier. It feels a lot more purposeful.
Interesting. And so, look, I think most people listening to this will probably be salespeople and marketing people, but some of them will be founders. Like on the journey that you've been on, are there any like big lessons that you've learned or things that you would have done differently that you wish you could pass back to yourself? What's the number one thing? What's the thing that you go, I wish I'd just done this one thing differently and this journey would have been more enjoyable, let's say?
There's so many things I could say, but the one thing that I think is really important. And I have this conversation with, new or soon to be founders all the time. There's nothing wrong with VCs. I love our VCs. We've been very lucky to have great ones. I think the greatest con that the VC industry has pulled on founders over the last 20 years is convincing us collectively that if you don't raise VC money, you're not a real founder. And I know that no one ever says that directly, but I've literally most of my life I've been a bootstrapper, and then got sucked into this VC world. And I fell prey to this whole idea of like, we have to raise. It's the only way to do it. So very often when founders come to me asking for fundraising advice, I always say, take a week and just really be introspective on, is raising money the right thing for your business? Because there are a lot of businesses, and like our original business, if we had bootstrapped it, I mean, who knows if it would have been possible, but it actually would have been a great business. A couple $1 million of ARR, cranking along, doing your thing. But also when you have this pressure of like, we've raised, $60 million, a whole bunch of types of businesses stop being possible. And so many companies raise money that shouldn't. And there's so much opportunity to build a great business that makes $1 million, $5 million, $10 million a year that aren't VC backed. They might not be sexy. You might not get the news articles written about you, but really be introspective. Is that why you want to be a founder? Do you want to be a founder because you want to get on the $1 billion or bust train? Because most founders, I don't think that's what they actually want, but they've been like subconsciously convinced that that's the only way to do it.
Oh, that's such good advice. I think we've been on a similar journey because I was sitting down with a CEO of a company recently. They're $500,000 ARR with just 2 people in their first year of trading. It's
That's
just 2 of them. They've got a path to profitability. And I was like, don't buy into you have to be a unicorn.
Yeah.
Like, perhaps think about getting to 10 million and owning the entire business and selling it then.
Yep.
That's a much more exciting journey. And he was like, I don't get it. Why? And I was like, how long you got? There is a different world out there. And I think you're
and
totally
neither one is
on.
right or wrong. It's just like, there are some businesses that are not possible without VC money. And sometimes that is the right path. Mm-hmm. But I just don't think founders take that moment of pause and are like really honest with themselves about, why are you a founder? Why is it because of that? Or is it just, you just want to do your own thing? Like I've realized for me, I'm a founder because I like building things. This time around, I just feel like I'm building a thing that happened to have gotten a lot bigger than anything else I've ever built. But I know that if ComStor gets sold or shuts down or anything a year from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now, the next thing I'm going to do is build something else. It might not be VC backed. It probably won't be. I'm going to be a builder until the day I die. That's the kind of founder I am. And it took me a long time to have that self-realization that I wish I'd had 3 years ago.
Very interesting. Appreciate you sharing that, man. Well, so look, we're actually coming to the end. Let's go through the quickfire round. I asked the same 3 questions to everyone. I'm going to start with the first one. If you could have a drink with anyone in the world, whether they're dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Dead or alive, this is like such a random deep cut. I don't know why this is the first one that came to my mind. I'm going with Theodore Roosevelt.
Okay.
I don't know. He always seemed like a cool person. That I loved the saying, "Speak softly and carry a big stick." Always liked that mentality. I think be able to back your words up, but don't necessarily be the loudest person in the room. Is always how I took that. He just seems like a fascinating character, right? Invented the American National Park System. Just like, I don't know. Seems like a cool dude to hang out with. And I did a whole research project on him when I was in school and had to give a presentation to pretend to be him. So there's a childhood nostalgia element to it as well in a way.
Great. Wow. Very cool. I haven't heard that one before. All right, next one, real quick then. So what's the dumbest thing you think go-to-market professionals are making right now? And what do you think they should do differently?
I think a lot of people are over-indexing on AI. And I think there's a place for it. I think AI for research is great, but I don't know about you, but if I found out that a seller was using AI to talk to me, I wouldn't want to talk to that seller. And I think it's like, I've used the analogy that I think go-to-market teams right now. Have you seen the movie Thelma and Louise?
Yes. Yeah.
Go-to-market teams, it's like marketing and sales. They're sitting in a car. They know that they are heading towards a cliff, but they're still debating how to make the car go faster instead of trying to turn the car. And it's like, it's like an Ouroboros. Like they don't even realize that they're devouring themselves. Like they're increasing the volume, they're increasing the noise, they're creating the very system, which is causing the system not to work.
I love it. I love the analogy as well, and I think you're spot on.
As much as that'll piss them off, but it's true.
It's fine. I think having a point of view is what's important, and stand by it. Final question then. Which company are you watching right now and that you think might be a future game changer, and you cannot say your own company?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't. There's a lot. I had one. I knew this. I had one in my thoughts like 5 minutes ago, and of course I'm like, what was the company I was thinking of 5 minutes ago? This is not a game changer, but I think given the advice I talked about with founders, I think it kind of ties that loop nicely. Page with 2A's.io that Neil is building. He is a perfect example that you can build a great company in a market that's relatively crowded, right? Sales rooms and that, like there's a lot of entrants in that space in the last few years. He's doing it himself. He built it himself. He's built a good brand himself. He's selling it in a very go-to-network style way, bringing on brand ambassadors, social selling, building a personal brand. He's just hired his first employee and he's fully bootstrapped. And is it going to be $1 billion company? I don't know. For his sake, if that's what he wants, I hope so. I just think the way he's going about building is very inspirational. And if I were a founder looking to start a company right now, he's the kind of person I would look to for inspiration on how to do it.
Very cool. I love that example, man. Sounds like bootstrapping is on your mind.
I think, I don't know. I just think there's a time. Like I said, I come from that world. I heard this the other day, last week for the first time, venture strapping. The idea of raising a small round from like strategics rather than traditional VCs with the intention of never raising a round again. Like you get a little round to get yourself off the ground, but then the goal is to use that to get to profitability and then scale from there. And you structure it with those early investors on like a profit share model. So even if there's no exit, there's still an outcome. And I think that sort of hybrid model, there's a lot of opportunity for that in the near future, I think.
Very cool. I've learned something totally new with venture strapping today. So appreciate you sharing that, man.
Yeah, anytime.
So, Mac, I actually, this isn't intentionally to blindside you, but I do ask one final question.
Okay.
Before you go, and in one sentence, if you can, just to give some advice to like other go-to-market professionals, what if you're advising people on how to break through the noise right now, what would you be telling people to do?
Don't be blinded by the data. Too many strategies right now are so pure data focused, or people are afraid to do things because it can't be perfectly measured. A lot of the best marketing plays right now can't be perfectly measured, and that's why they work well.
Oh, love it. Refreshing. Well, look, Mac, thank you so much for joining me, particularly at such short notice after the big launch. I know you're incredibly busy. For people who want to follow you or get in touch with you, how can they do that?
I mean, LinkedIn's always a good one. I think I'm the only Mac Reddin on LinkedIn, so it should be a pretty easy search. Or if there's more than one, look for the one with a dinosaur in the name. That's usually a good a good way to do it. I'll say I love talking to people. If you want to have, shoot the shit on ideas around go-to-network or things like that, I'm always happy to help. If you're a aspiring founder looking for advice, I love having conversations with like people who are just about to take that leap into founder land, because I wish I had more people to have that conversation with before I did this crazy thing 4 years ago. So yeah, always open to conversations if folks want to reach out.
Love it. Mate, thank you so much for joining us. This has been another episode of The Antidote. We'll catch you all soon.
Appreciate you for having me.